Welcome back, proppers. Today's project will be the Reaper from the Blade series. I'll be using the Mr. Knight template from Much Props as a base for my project. For free templates and more detailed instructions for this part of the project, you can go to Thomas Hanna's channel, Much Props. I start out by cutting all the individual pieces of the template out of cardstock. It's good to hold on to these templates because they can be used in other projects. The main sections of the top and back of the forehead are cut out in two pieces, but I'll be taping them together before cutting them out of the EVA foam. The next sections will be the left and right sides of the head, all of which will be cut out of 6mm EVA foam. I want to take this opportunity early in the video to thank you all for your support and patronage. Subscribing to the channel would really help it grow. I will never ask for any monetary support from any of my viewers. I do this for the pleasure of creating art. My only wish is for you to enjoy the videos. Liking and subscribing to the channel will help me keep it going. Okay, now we can close the begging and pleading lines and get back to the project. The first order of business is to close all the darts. While bending the template pieces into the desired curvature, I close the darts using contact cement. Working on each half of the head separately, I attach the sides. Carefully following the registration marks on all the pieces will automatically give you the proper curvature. I found that attaching the outsides first gives you a cleaner seam and less need of sanding later. The upper and lower sections of the eyes are attached together, and then the cheek section is attached to them. The eyes and cheeks are then attached to the face, being sure that each piece is going to the proper half of the face. I found the best way to make this attachment is to start with the upper eyelid and then work your way down the side of the cheek. The same procedure for the second half of the face. The last section to attach will be the lower jaw before joining the two halves together. For the best results, be very careful when adjoining the two halves. Follow all the registration marks and adjoin the outer edge first to eliminate sanding later. Trust me, you'll thank yourself later for taking a little extra time to get this part done. With the basic template completed, it's time for me to do all my retrofitting to create the Reaper. I start by creating a preliminary paper template on the size and shape that I believe the mouth should be. The Reaper's eyes aren't recessed like Mr. Knight. so I have to create a couple of blanks to lessen the depth of the eye socket. The mouth section will be made out of 4mm EVA foam, and lots of excess material will be left on the sides because I'm not sure exactly how much of it I'll need. I'm tracing out the size and shape of the mouth from my tablet to get a better representation. I also want to trace out the size and shape of his florally tongue of death. After I was satisfied with the size and shape, I used a large needle to transfer the image onto the 4mm EVA foam. The top edge of the mouth section is attached to the head with contact cement. Blue tape is used as a borderline to make sure that only the top edge of the mouth sticks to the face. The edges are rolled over to the side of the face and marked out for attachment. Using a small stick, I apply a thin layer of contact cement down the side of the face to ensure that only the edge of the foam attaches. I now have to slowly and methodically start attaching the mouth section to the face. I start by cutting a thin strip of 4mm EVA foam to get the bottom curvature and attach it to the mask. The strip is attached in a manner where it will pull the curvature of the bottom jaw, as well as leave me ample room for adjustments. The first adjustment had to be made right away. To tighten the curvature on the bottom of the mouth, the strip inside the mask attachment had to be extended further into the mask. To get the final form of the mouth, I had to start the bending and folding procedure to find out exactly where the darts would have to be cut out. I established my first cut positions, but I want to be very conservative because I can always take off more, but you can't put it back. I then started to mark out small sections to be cut out, a little at a time. There are no simple or easy ways to get through this process. You just have to be very slow and methodical about it. My goal is to get it to the point where I can have a butt connection, where I can have a very smooth seam without any overlap. After several more trimming cuts, I felt that I had gotten to the point where I wanted to be. After butt connecting the two edges with contact cement, the seam is reinforced with a strip of 2mm EVA foam. The same process is used for the other side. The blanks for the eyes are cut out of 6mm EVA foam. The blanks for the eyes are made in 2 layers, with the inner layer being slightly smaller. The blanks are attached with a slight outward curvature. I then use my Dremel rotary tool to smooth out all of the seams. To attach the inner layer of the mouth, all the excess foam is cut out of the inside. A thin strip of 4mm EVA foam is used to line and reinforce the inner edge of the lips, creating a gum line. The strip is attached with contact cement a 1/4 inch off the edge. The inside of the mouth is lined with a sheet of 2mm EVA foam. A center line is created on the foam sheet to ensure equal coverage on both sides of the mouth. The sheet is then slowly and carefully centered and attached to the inside of the mouth. The same process of folding and cutting out sections to create butt joints as was done for the outside of the mouth is done for the inside of the mouth. All of the excess foam is then cut away. The seams, transition points, and any gaps are filled in with foam clay. Some detail is marked out on the eye blanks, and the nose is formed and created with foam clay. With the mouth unit stable, the last piece of excess foam is cut away. A small piece of 6mm EVA foam is used to create the floral tongue of death. The 6mm foam is rolled into a tube and then butt connected with contact cement. The first 2 inches of the seam is reinforced with a piece of 2mm EVA foam. An 1.5 inch section is marked out on the other side of the foam tube, and the end is slid into 5 equal parts. The ends are then marked and cut into a conical shape. Five pieces are cut out of 10mm EVA foam and formed into buds to cover each petal. To form and shape the buds, I'll be using my Dremel rotary tool. The buds are attached to each petal using contact cement. Both the petal and bud are bent into form while attaching to keep the curvature. The final trimming of the flower is done with the Dremel rotary tool. The center of the flower and all the connecting points are filled with foam clay. The marked out details on the eye blanks are burnt in with my USB soldering iron. Eye holes are then drilled out for the pupils. The details of the eyes are given a light sanding and then covered with foam clay. A paper template is made for the ears before being cut out of 6mm EVA foam. Strips of 4mm EVA foam are cut out to accent the outer edges of the ears. The ears are then smoothed and rounded over with my Dremel rotary tool. Foam clay is used to create detail inside the ear. The Dremel rotary tool is also used to add character lines to the face. Foam clay is used to create raised cheeks for a little more detail. The USB soldering iron is used to create a network of veins across the entire head. The sharp seam on each side of the head are sanded down and rounded over with foam clay. The entire project was then primed with a coat of gray Plasti Dip and a coat of heirloom white spray paint. For the most secure attachment, an angle was sanded onto the inner edge of each ear. To ensure the proper position of the ears, they are marked out in advance. While giving the contact cement for the ears a chance to set in, I decided to do some additional detailing to the eyes. The ears are set into position, and a primer of titanium white is applied over the newly added details. I grabbed this tube of titanium white thinking it was another tube of my latex from Liquitex, but it turned out to be an oil paint, and it gave me hell later. I did my best to dry brush off as much of it as I could, but it was still to no avail. A day later and it was still wet. I marked out the position and cut a hole where the tongue would be placed. The connecting strip of 6mm foam in the back of the mouth made this a little difficult, so I had to reach in and cut out sections. After marking out the position of the tongue and cutting it down to size, I applied a little contact cement, then set it aside so I can work on the inner details of the mouth. 1/4-inch strips of 4mm EVA foam was used to line the mouth for membrane. The tongue was then inserted into position. Small pieces of EVA foam dowels were used to house the large canines in the front corners of the mouth. Those canines were created out of a smaller diameter of EVA foam dowel. For safety, mask up when you're doing processes like this. You definitely don't want your lungs to look like my thumb. The dowels are sharpened to a dull point and then cut into 1-inch segments. Holes were drilled into the larger dowel to accommodate the smaller one. The foam canines were pressed into place and sealed with instant glue. The foam canine was then saturated with instant glue while being held in the curved position. This process solidified the foam and kept it in position. 2 more smaller canines were applied to each side of the jaw. The smaller dowel was split into 4 pieces to create a stigma for the flower. After hand rolling the stigma, it was formed, shaped, stiffened, and attached to the flower with instant glue. With most of the structural part of the project completed, it was time for the painting. The entire project was coated with a layer of Liquitex unbleached titanium. The molar sections of the teeth were created by cutting slots in pieces of resin and then filling the slots with a little red oxide. A wash was made with raw sienna to darken the texture of the skin. Cadmium red as well as crimson red is used to darken around the eyes. To create a contrast, black lines were painted into the crevices. The face was given a pink hue, and several graduations of red were used to paint the inside of the mouth. A dark crimson red was used on the membrane detail inside the mouth, and highlights of black was placed in for contrast. The flower was painted with red, white, and black. The large canines were painted white, and once again I mistakenly used the oil paint, which came back to haunt me. Instead of creating my own eyes as usual, I decided to buy some off Amazon. Unfortunately, I skimped and bought the cheapest ones, and you get what you pay for. They're not horrible, they work, but I think I can do a lot better. There are small spikes that come on that tongue of death, and I decided to start using pieces of skewer because I couldn't find my toothpicks. But luckily at the last moment, I did locate the little buggers. A 1/4 inch was cut off from each end of the toothpick and are placed point out in the center of each bud, heading toward the tip. The veins on the head were accentuated with red and blue markers, and all the teeth were attached inside the mouth with hot glue. I did some final paint touch-ups on any place I deemed necessary. I'm still not happy with the final skin tone. I'm going to give it another wash of raw sienna and see how that works out. I'd like to give it a lot more color, but you know, these guys are the undead, so they don't actually have the greatest complexion. A few dark shadows in the ears, and I think this is going to be completed. Yes, I believe we're going to call this the end of this project. As always, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, we really need you. Press that like button, press the bell notification so you'll be notified when new videos are uploaded. I'll see you at the next upload.